Hi guys, how you going? Cambell here from Spiral Up channel, where we talk about practical, everyday things you can use to improve your experience and get more of what you want, and to generally spiral up in life. And today I wanted to talk about the mind, and actually more about the brain and how the brain functions and how it works against us and how we can use it to work for us instead. So let's jump into it. The mind, hey? One of the great mysteries of being human. And of course the mind is not the brain. The brain is basically the structure, the machine that is there that we use to think with, to interact with the five sense world. And so our mind has been called the great trickster because it can work against us, and the reason it can work against us is that we are creatures of habit. It's much easier for us to follow habits and to do the same thing, to repeat things over and over, than it is to make a change and to divert from our course. But of course, if all we do is repeat the past, then all we're doing is repeating the present and therefore the future. We're just putting ourselves in a box where all we're going to get is the same results every time. And this is what habit is. This is how habit can work against us. If we always do what's easy, then that is submitting to habit, and it means we're always just going to do the same actions and get the same results. And there is a saying that says, easy decisions, hard life. Hard decisions, easy life. So if we always take the easy route, we end up in trouble a lot of the time. It's when we go out and we actually start to make our own decisions, get our own information, and start to act on that information, under our own perspective. That's when things start to change for us, and where we start to, get into sync and get into that flow where things just come a lot more easier. And we're controlling our thoughts and our minds, and that way we are controlling the outcome of our thoughts as well. So let's jump in and have a look at what neurons are and how they are controlling and tricking us to stay in habitual patterns. And this is a neuron. This is a brain cell or a nerve cell. So we get these neurons in our spinal cord and nervous system, as well as our brain, which is of course the apex of our nervous system. And this is how our neurons work. We have here, this is the main neuron, the cell body, the nucleus. They're calling it the soma, basically the cell body here. These are dendrites. As you can see, they come up and they grow lots of these branches off them. And this is a simplistic picture. They end up with hundreds and hundreds of them. And basically, if you can picture information flowing this way. So it flows, these dendrites connect up with axons, axon terminals of other neurons, and they get information and they pass it through. And the information comes through down the axon. This is the axon, the purple bit through here, and out to the axon terminals. And at the axon terminals is where we find the synaptic gaps and the synapses, which is where information is given across to another neuron. And there are synapses on both ends. Now the synapses are just a name basically for the different components that make up the ends of the axons and the dendrites. And then there's a synaptic gap, what's called a synaptic gap, which is a literal gap between the terminals of each end, and that is where the information fires across like a spark plug basically. So that's, and it's all electrical impulse. So I hope that makes sense. So if you can picture, information comes in here, gets processed, goes through and exits here. And then the next neuron would be here, and it would the dendrites would be talking to the axon terminals. So what I really wanted to talk about is these. These are called myelin sheaths, these yellow bits. And these are basically made up of fat. They're like fat cells. But what they do is they work like insulators. So if you can imagine this as an electrical cable, an electrical wire, and it has electricity running through it, obviously a charge going this way. Now, the more insulation you have on that wire, the faster the signal will travel, and the safer it'll be, the less it will lose. The less radiation, electrical radiation will be given off. So it will be a more direct signal. Now, these act the same way, these myelin sheaths. So what it is the more you use these axons, the thicker these myelin sheaths get. And the thicker they get, the faster the impulse will travel through them. Or, the signal, the information. So what happens is we have billions of these in our brain, and we use some of them a lot more than we use other ones. So when we believe things, that's actually using a certain number of neurons, and certain neurons actually make up that belief system. And so the belief systems have very fat myelin sheaths because we think that thought a lot, and so when we think it, it goes through easily. When we learn something new, we have very thin myelin sheaths, so that's why it takes a while to remember things, it takes a while to learn things, to make connections, and to come to the point where we take it on as a perspective or a point of view. And to do that, we need to actually build up the literal physical pathways of those signals. And so this is how the brain works for us and against us. If we have a belief system that is maybe not good for us, the brain is still going to make that a lot easier for us to think those thoughts and to come to those conclusions that we have in the past, because we have big fat myelin sheaths here. So if you can think of it like a highway, a 10-lane highway, as opposed to like, one of those little lanes you find in Europe, that you can only just fit one car through. So one way, it's fast and they've got heaps of space, they can get down there quickly, it's easy. If it's a new neuron and a new decision, just say, you want to start exercising, but in the past you haven't. You've then got to build up and work mentally, put in actual mental, physical work to build up these new myelin sheaths and these new highways of information, because these old ones are always going to be easier, and they're easier because it's literally easier for the signal to travel down them. So this is how they work against this, is if it's a bad habit, it's just easier to continue with that habit than it is to build a new habit. But knowing that, we can also then put time into and effort into creating new neural pathways if we want to change ourselves, our actions, the results we get, whatever it might be. It's all to do with repetition. Repetition is one of the best ways to build up these myelin sheaths. And so if you're exercising, that's literally going to the gym. If you want to learn more, that's literally reading, researching, watching people. These types of things, these build new connections. What they do is, these new neurons, or the neurons that we start to use, they send out dendrites and they connect up with axons of neurons, and they create these pathways of information. And the more we work on them, the easier the information flows, and the easier it is for us to do new things, think new thoughts, and act in new ways. And this is also why it's very hard to, wake people up, in air commas. Humans are creatures of habit. And so when we've done things for a long time, it's just easier to keep on doing them. And this is why, because it's literally physically easier for the connections to be made. So when you're trying to talk to someone about new ideas, you need to understand that they don't have the neurons with that information in them, and they definitely don't have any connections. So when you're talking to them, you're probably just creating this first neuron. It then takes a lot of time for them. They need to think about it, to gather more information, start reaching conclusions, having thoughts, all this kind of stuff before, they can really understand what you're talking about. And, we find this a lot, in education as well, where we're not taught so much to understand things. They just use these neural pathways to get us to conclusions, really, which is another way that these can work against us. And, the mind has been called the great trickster. So keep that in mind, because it is, as far as habit. If we let habit control us, then exactly, we're not creating our own destiny, we're not creating our own experience, and we're not being, the masters of our own destiny. So this is, the neuron. So there you go, guys, a brief explanation of how our thoughts work and how signals and information travels in our brains. And of course, like I said, the brain is, the infrastructure that our mind works through as far as thought and perceiving this 5-sense reality. So as I said in there, one of the major ways to increase these myelin sheaths, and so to change habit, is repetition. And that can be repetition as far as, reading things over, saying things over in your mind, like affirmations. But of course, when it comes to doing things, as far as, of course, an easy one is, getting fit, getting healthy, going to the gym, or going for a walk every day, or whatever it might be. The best thing you can do is get up and do that. Just understand that when you're sitting down and you can't be bothered, you really don't want to get up and go for that walk in the morning, that's just because it's easier for those electrical signals to get through, because you don't normally do that. Your brain's going, hang on, it's coffee time, or hang on, it's TV time, or whatever it is. So just get up and do it. That's the fighting bit. Once we get through that, it will change. And it will change to the point where if you sit down in the morning and you're not going for a walk, you'll be feeling bad. Your mind will be going, hang on, get up and go for a walk. That's what we always do. So repetition is a great way to build up these myelin sheaths and change habits. Another one which I mentioned is just getting new information and sourcing it out, because what that does is that creates more dendrites, more arms on your dendrites. And so what that means is you're bringing in more information to each concept, I guess, to each bit of information you already have. You're getting more literal connections to it, and that's why we say, connections. We're getting more connections. And the third way I will mention to build up these myelin sheaths is to use your imagination, because the greatest nation on earth is the imagination, right? Make mind movies. See yourself in the situations that you want to actually be in. Create the future in your mind, because of course everything is created twice, right? First, not in here, but in our mind out there, and then second in physical reality. So make these mind movies, create it first in your mind, and connect with them as much as you can with your emotions, as far as feelings. Feel, happy, feel joy, feel whatever emotions you want to feel. Also feel things like the wind on your face, or the heat, or the cold, in whichever surrounding you are. If you're sitting next to a fire, feel that fire on your face, and build these movies. And the reason this works really well is your mind doesn't know the difference between what is real and what is imagined. It can't tell the difference. And we know this through many experiments. I won't get into it now, but I may in a future video. Let me know if you want me to. But our mind can't tell the difference. So if we imagine things, it's literally like we're doing them. You can literally use this. If you're having trouble getting up and going for that walk or whatever it is every morning, if you spend time every day imagining yourself doing that, you'll find that it will actually get easier and easier for you to actually physically do it, because your mind thinks you've already physically done it, so it's already building up the myelin sheaths. So to imagine something with emotion, and I mean really imagine it like you're there, attach the emotion, like I said, attach as much of the surrounding atmosphere as you can, sounds, temperatures, things like this. And yeah, the more you do that, it will build up the myelin sheaths and it will make the physical actions easier, and that's how you will also build up these myelin sheaths and get these pathways firing and get the connections through easily, and that's how we change habits. And of course, what we do habitually is what we become. So there you go. Hope that helped you guys. Hope you got something from it. Please give me a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this information around. And of course, hit the bell and you'll be notified of all future uploads. And I have hit the 1,000 subscribers on this channel, so thanks everyone. Thanks for all the support. Thanks for all the wonderful comments that you all leave me every day. You're all just wonderful, and I really do appreciate it. And so yeah, 1,000 subscribers, I can now do live streams. So let me know if you'd like me to, and if you would, what would you like me to talk about? Because I'm happy to we can sit down and have an hour and a half and talk about different topics and get interaction. It's still a small channel, so we should be able to get some with hopefully 20 or 30 people on, and yeah, get a bit of a discussion going. So let me know, and yeah, we can organize that as well. All right guys, have a spectacular day. Look inside yourself, because there is greatness in there, and I'll talk to you all on the next upload. Bye for now.